Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And today I'm joined by Dave from Wonky Sheep, and we're going to have a little chat about his business and life in general. How are you doing today, Dave? You okay?
Yeah, not bad. It's the middle of the week already, although these days do seem to blur into one recently.
Yes, they do. One big long Zoom session.
Yeah, I think this is my fourth or fifth Zoom of the day. So, but it is my last one.
Oh,
So
is it?
you'll have a rest.
Yes, you do get a bit of Zoom fatigue, don't you? But the usual place I start with people is the lockdown. Zoom themed. But how has the lockdown been for you? And have you done anything particular in your business to pivot during this time?
It's been an interesting lockdown. When everything started kicking off, the big wonder is, what happens. But it's actually been quite a good sort of time of reflection in a way, and give you a little bit of a chance to look at where you are. For our business, it's three elements. You've got the travel, you've got event planning, and media consultancy. Now, travel is obviously the one that people talk about probably the most. I'd guess because they're mostly affected by them. And for us, the big thing this year was due to be the Euros. Now, it's been moved to next year. So for us, that could have been a lot worse because 90% of the people who are going to watch Wales at the Euros next year just said, I just want to move everything over. And partly because we also work a year in advance, we don't, all our outgoings for this year are completely covered. So we didn't have that element to worry about either. And it's also given us the opportunity on that scale to press the reset button on some of like the trips and do things differently and rearrange. And more from a logistics point of view for us, it's making it a lot easier for next year. And since the new dates for the tournament have been confirmed in June, things have just gone, quite mad. I think we've got an extra 200 people on top of how many we were meant to take this year. Partly, I think it's because of the difference in options we've put on. It's also some people couldn't go this year, could go next year, but there's also a lot of people who've had a lot of problems getting refunds from airlines, hotels, and all that this year who just want to take the easy way out. And I don't blame them, to be honest. And then the event side, that's the one that's just been the quietest. It is literally, there's not many events happening, but we've seen that with company that does online events, so that is at least offering something. But the other thing that has kept ticking along throughout the period is the media consultancy side, and that's because it's really important for every business, really, because even if you're a business that's doing nothing, you still need to communicate with people, your customers, your clients, to at least let them know that you're still there. And that's what we've done throughout, through all the aspects. You may not have anything to tell anyone, but you've still got to let them know you're there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important in business. A lot of businesses, when money gets a bit squeezed and a bit tight, they spend on what they have to spend and not on what they think is a choice. And so many people consider sales and marketing to be a choice, but really it's what has to be spent. But it's one of those things that tends to go. But the clever businesses and the strategic businesses and the people who know that now is not the time to retreat and now is not the time to pull away, but actually to get on the offensive and start making yourself be seen as, the one who's still going while everyone else is retreating a bit. Now is the time, where you can really make some inroads into the industry and into the sector, and you're not competing against, as many people, etc. So the smart people are actually spending their money on marketing right now, but the not so smart ones have decided, oh, well, we don't have to spend that right now, so we won't.
But there's also the thing as well, I completely agree with that, but there's also bits of marketing that you can do that won't cost you anything. And for example, as I say, it's about keeping yourself in people's minds. I'll use the Wales as the example. We've got a group on Facebook specifically for the travel. I think it's about 4,500 people in there. two particular posts that we did during this lockdown period. One was post your pictures of your favourite away trips. Got hundreds and hundreds of responses. Another one was when BBC Wales started showing the rerun of Euro 2016. Screen grab of the Slovakia game, posted it, hundreds of interactions. And there's ways of doing it. I said there is the spend side, which you do need to do as well. But the other side as well is just keeping it going. And people love it. And then when it comes to then when things do pick up, you should be hopefully in the forefront of their minds.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's loads of organic ways of marketing that don't involve spend. A great one is what I started in the end of April, which is podcasting. That has worked really, really well for me. And also YouTubing. You know, I used to put the odd video up on YouTube now and then, but I never really had a strategy where I could create lots of content. If I didn't have a clear strategy on something that I could do regular. But the podcast opened up entrepreneur chats, which gave me a regular strategy of content that I could fulfill regularly. You know, because that's the key, is how you don't want to just start and then fizzle away. You've got to have something which is sustainable long term, and that you can commit to, etc. And I have lots of networking chats and whatever on the phone. So really, I've just pivoted to doing those chats on the podcast or on a Zoom call, and I'm doing the same thing I was doing before, but creating content at the same time.
Yeah, and it is little changes that can make a big difference. I mean, for me, one of the things that I've been meaning to do for a long time is learn to produce videos myself. And I don't mean using, go for the templates, like it's actually doing stuff with proper software. And during this period, I'm not there yet, but I now know how to do a lot of basics of stuff. And it's just creating new skills as well, while things are not going on. And I think, I know in some cases, some businesses, through this have been completely put on stop. And there are, have hit some people badly and affected them in different ways. But otherwise, for ones that haven't, I don't quite understand how you can just suddenly go on stop unless you're physically forced to. You need to be reinventing yourself if needs be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, some people just seem to, wave the white flag too early, whereas, most entrepreneurs aren't like that. Most entrepreneurs, we get obstacles and problems in our way all the time, and we have to find ways around them. And, that is an entrepreneurial mindset and an entrepreneurial spirit. But you do get some people who go into business, they're not really entrepreneurs. They've gone in because they were forced to do a management buyout, or they were forced to do this, or they didn't like their boss, and so they thought, well, I'll do an alternative. And those people, they're not necessarily the right people to be running businesses a lot of the time. And a lot of the time, they're just, they're not really businesses. They're just a job for themselves, But, an entrepreneur is someone who can solve problems, and the coronavirus give us a massive problem that we all have to solve in our businesses.
And it's even simple things as well. It's like there's, I know in and around Cardiff Bay and all that there's a coffee shop that pretty much straight away launched an app where you can order your coffees. I think you do your order, you've got your picture on it as well, so they know who it is. And before all this, I'd never even heard of the coffee shop. I even knew that they existed. But now I do.
Yeah,
and potentially from that.
They do chips next door as well, don't they? They own the chippy next door. I had some chips off them.
Yeah, it is that. It is that. Yeah, but the thing is, I never knew it existed, but now I do. So they potentially gained extra customers from being proactive. In a time of crisis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm a massive fan of technology. Always have been. And it's the ones, obviously people have been forced to use technology now, but, a lot of clever people, like, for example, Weatherspoons put in an app which you can order from their table, food and drink. And when things open back up now, that's going to help them be able to run their business much better than people who haven't got those apps in place, because, they can find it difficult. They either have to develop an app or find a different way of, herding people, if you like, it through their premises. Whereas if everyone had an app, then you could just sit them at the table, everyone's socially distant, and nobody's got to get up and and move around. So yes, technology is the answer to most problems when it comes to efficiency, time saving, just making things a little bit better and a bit easier than not using technology.
Yeah, I agree, and it is the ones who if they hadn't come up with the idea or the technology will struggle, because again there's I suppose there's a can't do attitude in, like, maybe you've got a pub that's quite a small pub. It's like, there's no way we can do socially distancing. Well, there will be a way somehow. You just have to work on how to actually do it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you could do pint deliveries. You could have a Zoom event with a karaoke or a DJ, and you could deliver the drinks to the locals in your area.
I did. I was watching a program last night. I can't remember what it was. It was a travel program, and it was somewhere in one of the Caribbean islands where they got drive-through bars, which is obviously isn't great for drink driving, but it's a different idea.
Whereas the Caribbean is a different world there for drinking. But in fact, there's a load of petrol stations which all shut down because the supermarkets opened up, that have all got shops with drives, if you like, past the front of them. Most of them are being used at the moment for cleaning cars. But there's a great stock there of people to create drive-through businesses of some sort.
Oh yeah, it is open imagination, and to be honest, I'd love it if I could come up with some ideas like that could make it work. But anything is possible. If your product's good, people will go. Doesn't matter if you are serving from a tin shed.
Yeah, we're sort of fairly new to knowing each other. We met online networking recently. I've been aware of Wonky Sheep for a while with regards to the football and the travel. I didn't know so much about your events, and I've obviously got to know more recently. I think you've added that to your portfolio more recently, the media stuff and the marketing and all that sort of stuff. But tell us a little bit about the events that you were doing, and obviously tell us a little bit as well about that the online event company that you have connected with now, because I'm interested in doing an online event, so there might be a good connection for me.
Well, yeah, the other two sides are sort of being kept a little bit under the radar, and just been sort of quietly getting on with stuff, while the focus that most of the public know is the travel. But a lot of what I've been doing is more like the events on day support. So the idea is, it's your event, you run it how you want to run it, and you can look after the main bits on the day, while we are there in the background, just making sure everything goes smoothly. And if anything does crop up or whatever, it's something that either you don't have to worry about, or have to, so you're still focusing on what you want. And then, we take care of it. I mean, it could be anything from B2B event, conferences, dinners, etc. And it can be little simple things like, can you imagine you turn up and, it's happened to me, I'm sure it's happened to most people, turn up at an event, there's no one to meet or greet you, you have no idea where to go, and you're looking a little bit lost, and, it's not a great first impression to give someone. Or, if you're doing a presentation, for example, and you realize that your computer's not set up, and you've sat there with an audience, and you've got that little awkward moment of like, right, bear with me a second, and it's sort of avoidable. And then you can stop that happening either by, in the pre-planning, or if somebody doesn't want to listen, then, you have to deal with it on the day. But of course, there's other issues that will crop up as well. One of the examples I do like to use is like a food festival that we helped with a couple of years ago. The organisers, have their thing. We were helping on the day. There was a few little issues that, came up. Could have been prevented in the first place, but wasn't. So the layout had a gap in the layout, which people could just use as a cut through and miss out half of all the people who were there on the stand, in the other stand. So, it was like, well, you need to shut that off. And it was like, it'd be okay. Within 10 minutes of the event starting, that got shut off. So everyone was being seen to. And then, it became quite clear with numbers. It was a nice day that there was not enough seating and seating and chairs and tables. So it's a case of, right, we need to get something moving and do that. So it's like keeping an eye on what's going on at the time, while the others are then, the main people running it are looking after the main things. So it's like those ones. It sounds little bits and bobs.
It's a bit like being a director for the day, being a director, directing events and just overseeing things that when you're in the actual event, you may not see that big picture view of what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. But the main thing is ensuring that the people who attend don't know any different, and that's the sort of the main element of that. And in terms of the online, it was actually last week as a company who basically we in talks with, and you can just set up an online event, whether it's a conference, whether it's there is going to be expos available as well soon, and you can have it up to 2,000 people, and there's agendas. You can go into different rooms and watch whatever you want to do, and then depending what sort of package you go for, you can then have it stay up online so people can come back and watch it later. But it looks really good. They are actually updating it in the next couple of weeks, so apparently it's going to look better, and it can be all branded and everything like that.
Yeah, well, you have to send me a link for that. I'll have a look at it. Do me a connection or something. But I was just wondering if you did, when you said events, obviously because of the travel, it's quite sports related. I was wondering if you did any sports related events, because I used to watch a lot of the Wales football matches in the beer cellar, which used to be a bit like a fan zone. The biggest TV on the wall, a great atmosphere and that sort of thing. There's nowhere really to watch, at the moment. I don't know where, like for example, for the Euros, Euro 2016, I went to quite a lot of the fan zones, but I watched, they didn't have the fan zones early on in the tournament, and it grew as eventually we ended up in the stadium. But it grew and it grew. But I was just wondering, at the moment, I wouldn't know where I would go to watch the Wales games necessarily in that fan type environment, which I like. And I was thinking maybe there's a gap in the market there. You've already got the captured audience. Maybe putting on some football events at home would be a good thing for you.
Yeah, events is something we are looking to do. I have had a conversation with someone in the last week or two about trying to start up, because it is something that has been on the horizon but not got round to, about some sort of events, but it's trying to see how things work. I suppose we've got time at the minute because doesn't seem to be much chance of any sort of anyone going to games right now, or any sort of thing that involves social distancing. But yeah, it's something you could potentially look at, and never say never about anything. Something's always possible if you've got the right people around you.
I was going to say, I haven't really heard much about international football. Obviously, since the Euros got moved, my guess is they're going to want to have quite a lot of build-up games, if you like, to get themselves into matches. They usually have these friendly games, don't they, before the tournament and that sort of thing. I don't know if you've heard much on that. Anything you can share that you're aware of on that?
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit a bit different. Well, I say that. I think they're trying to keep everything as normal as possible. So we've got the Nations League coming up in September, October, November. There's going to be gaps for some teams because they've got the Euro 2020 playoffs at the same time. So these games are going to be triple headers. So I'd imagine there'll be some friendlies within that as well. And then from March, it's meant to be the start of the World Cup qualifiers. So it might be a case of running straight into that. I mean, I haven't heard anything different.
Yeah, the World Cup qualifiers may be the Euro warm-ups.
Exactly. So March would be the next round of games, and then June would be the ones after that. So I suppose maybe they'll try and do the same sort of like friendly setups as they did. They're meant to have this year.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting. So a little bit of background, really. Where did you come from, if you like, before the world of Wonky Sheep? What was you doing before that?
My world was in the media, which would explain why we've got the media element. But Wonky started basically because I was going on stag do's at the time, and I was just fed up of paying 150, £200 for a package trip that I knew could be done for the same standard and at a lower cost. And that's without being going down the cheap route. And so that's what just started it all off, really. And at the time, the competition, so to speak, out there, the other ones, the big players and all that, they were offering all these packages. And for me, it was, as I still do now with things like Stag and Henry events, things like that. It's your event, it's your trip, not ours. So it's about what you want, not what ready-made packages that we know we've got to sell hotel spaces to flog to you. Everything's bespoke. You look now, and most of those companies, that's what they're doing now.
Yeah. So they took your lead.
One of them has actually gone bust during this crisis. I have seen. Yeah, which I found out about through someone else. But it shows that it doesn't matter how big you are, no one's safe.
No. Well, sometimes the bigger you are, the more fixed costs you got, the harder it actually is during these times.
Yeah, and I think they're one of the biggest players, and even not long ago, I think they'd spoken about expanding, or they had expanded, and I can imagine, when everything suddenly stops, and you're in a position like, because it's travel package regulations say that if somebody wants a refund, by law, you've got to refund them if something's cancelled. You're faced with trying to get money back, get money back to everyone, even though your suppliers may not have paid you back. We're still battling with a couple of suppliers now to get money back for this year. I know it's coming, but the fact is I still have to fork out before they do. And I think that's where it's not fair for the travel companies in this case. Is sometimes, they've got these rules to protect the consumer, but there's not a lot there to protect them.
No, that's right. So yeah, what sort of media background was there then? What was you doing in the media?
Mostly newspaper stuff, but I spent some time in London as well, and working in the courts and the Old Bailey, which is, it's where the real stories are. It's where the real life happens.
Yeah, what sort of journalism?
Celebrity nonsense. Yeah,
journalism. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you still, as part of your media side of things, do you still write copy then?
Yeah, and because that's the thing, particularly now when you're helping businesses and clients, is trying to get them to understand that what is actually being looked for. The single biggest mistake that people and companies make is they're wanting to put out something saying how great they are, and the truth is nobody cares. They couldn't care less. If you're saying this, you're saying that. They'll certainly point out if they think you're doing wrong, and they'll do it on social media as well, which is, the worst sort of platform. You want stuff like that to happen, which means then you've got to crisis manage potentially. If everyone has a story to tell, but it's how you go about telling it, you have to do it that the audience would be interested in, and you have to do it in a way that they would actually understand what you're on about as well. Because again, the other mistake is talking in, your own speak or your own assumed knowledge. And again, you're wasting your time, you're wasting everyone else's time, because nobody knows what you're going on about, and they're not going to watch the video anymore, or they ain't going to read anything else. And it's just getting that through to people. Really,
it's the biggest. Well, it's not the biggest, but it's probably up there with the big mistake that people have on their website is they write what they want to write about rather than what people want to find or what people want to read about. And they'll write stuff in industry language or industry terms, if you like, rather than just in layman's terms. Which is what people are looking for those products and services in. So, for example, search engine optimization can be, how do I rank high on the internet? Things like that.
No. It's exactly that. And some of the work I've done is in with the science industry, and that's a perfect example of talking to the layman in absolute gobbledygook.
Yeah.
But there is a way of telling that very, very simply. I might have to sit down with someone for an hour and a half and painstakingly go through it until I understand it. Because once I understand it, then I can write or produce something that everyone else will understand as well.
Yeah.
I say, speak to me like I'm an idiot and I'm simple.
Yeah.
Because that's the way to do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way the majority of the people reading it. That's their mindset a lot of the time.
It
Keep it
is,
simple,
but it's short.
stupid.
It's short-term memory. It's short-term attention span as well. If you haven't grabbed someone by after the first sentence, whatever, gone. That's it.
Yeah.
Completely gone.
Yeah, definitely, and that's why as well. Obviously, a lot of people turn into videos. Why I've increased the podcasting and the video, because there's so much content out there now. It's difficult to make any noise amongst the white noise. So you've got to do something a bit different. And if you can have that's why I use a lot of the backgrounds in my videos and stuff, because they're eye catching. When people are looking through YouTubes and stuff.
Well, the thing is the pictures is what people are first attracted to. But this brings out one of my other bugbears, is that a lot of people are turning to do video, which is great. But the one thing they're really failing to do quite often is subtitles. And it's trying to get them to understand that most people will look at videos on their phone. They're flicking through. There's a high chance they're not looking with any sound. So if you're putting a video on YouTube, Facebook, wherever, and you've got no subtitles and you're talking, the chances are they're not going to know what you're saying because they're not listening. So again, it's like doing half a job.
Yeah. I don't put subtitles on mine, so maybe there's a lesson in there. But
you should.
I've only been doing the videos for a few weeks, and I'm into producing a lot of content, which means I try and keep the process as streamlined as possible, because otherwise I would struggle to be able to produce the amount of content I do. So different strategy really, but I try not to get into editing too much, because if I got to edit, then it's going to slow the whole process down.
There are ways you can get subtitles put on quite easily. You may have to check them that they've auto translated correctly, but it's getting easier to add them on.
Yeah, I have used some transcribe packages and stuff, but like you say, it depends on whether they can pick up your words, and sometimes it can take a bit of time to go through and correct everything they've incorrectly written down. I have used a couple of those transcribe things, but yeah, I take your point on board with regards to people not always listening. I myself, I don't often watch, but I do listen. So, but it depends, because I'll put my speakers in and go and listen to some content on YouTube while I'm going for a run or a ride or something. So I don't necessarily do the looking, but there are people who are reverse. They'll do the looking and not do the listening. It's got a cater for everyone.
It's very easy. Yeah, it's very easy just to be sat down and just flicking through your phone and doing, just like that. And I think that's where where you're waiting for a bus or whatever, and I think that's a lot of the time when people miss it. It's an opportunity, I think. That's the only way to put it.
Yeah, definitely, and there's also a deaf market out there as well.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, so yeah, what's the plans for Wonky Sheep in the future? Are you going to expand? Obviously, you've got three areas at the moment that you concentrate on. Are you planning on adding some more to that over time?
At the minute, no, but I think it's a case of adding within those elements.
Yeah.
So we've talked about like I said, with the travel, rugby is the next big one for us. There's a lot of things happening in the background, and there's a couple of other sports we're looking at doing as well. And it's just one of those ones. I think is, as long as you understand there's a need to evolve and tweak in places, I think that's how we look to grow. But the thing is, it can just take one conversation with someone to completely change, a direction you're going. If, something comes up that is like, yeah, this is going to be a winner. So I don't like to fix myself into any sort of pigeonholes, but it's a case of having a sort of rough idea of where you want to go, but keep your mind open to that it could go in a different direction. Like I said, I didn't plan to start the football. It's because people just started asking. I didn't plan to do the events. It was just literally because it was through the travel, doing my own, arranging my own wedding and sort of other things associated with that. It's like, well, you do that. It's easy, and and it's offering something that people can benefit from. It's not just another service; it's something that they could benefit from.
Yeah, I think boxing trips would be a good one for you to do, because a lot of the football fans like the boxing as well, don't they? And Britain's got a lot of good boxers at the moment.
Yeah, they have. It was it's a good period for that right now. But yeah, we do get people say, oh, you're going to do something for this, you're doing something for that, and for me, my attitude is, well, if there's enough interest, we will. There's no reason why not if there's enough interest.
Yeah, well, I think if you've got 4,500 sports fans, football fans in a Facebook group, you can generally probably get a trip into most things. Out of that.
You probably could, although I imagine there's a lot of dormant fans in there as well. Numbers aren't great, but you get your same amount of people who do. But you've got like every single group for whatever you've got. But yeah, I say people put a request in, and if there's enough to run a trip or something, we will.
Yeah, good. And how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in any of your services?
Well, we've got a lot of people now get in touch through Facebook. We seem to be getting a lot of traffic through that, and then we get a lot of traffic through, not as much traffic through the website in terms of people contacting, but we're on Twitter as well and Instagram, and everything is monitored, so people will get a response, and also they won't get an automated chatbot either, because while yes, that does save people time, like myself time, I like to give a personal touch. And if people message me at 9:30 at night, not while I'm advocating for them to send me messages or things like that, I reply, and a lot of the time you get a message back with email or whatever, and it's thanking you for a quick response because they're not expecting it. But we are there, we are around, and there's lots of different ways to get in touch with us.
Yeah, that's good. And outside of sort of business and doing the events and running all of those different sections of your business, what do you like to do outside of that?
Quite connected, really. Football and travel.
Yeah, that's pretty much. So you're a customer of your own services.
Well, I am, and that's the thing is the thing that we do and what we make about the travel, especially football, it's run by fans for fans. So we're not just going to dump you in, get you to wherever the country is, whatever. Don't get you in a hotel, say right, bye, see you in 4 days' time. We will socialise with the fans. We'll have drinks with the fans. We'll go out for meals with our fans. We'll go to the games with them, and that's how we get to know them. That's how we build up a loyal base. I think we've got about a loyal base of a real hardcore of about 40 or so people who are going to book pretty much every trip. But when they started coming on trips, no one knew each other. They were all like individual 1s, 2s, or 3s, whatever. And through the methods that we use, they've all become good friends with each other. They do other stuff together since that. Then they'll book together. And that's the type of thing we create. And I think that's what makes us a little bit different from a lot of other services that are out there, is because, we are one of them as well. And they're not customers to us, they're fans.
Yeah, they're fans and friends. Did you have trips, and was you over for the Euro 2016?
Well, that was our first major tournament. Because we've been people had started asking us about for Bosnia, Israel, Cyprus. You know, are you doing anything for that? Because we've done a couple of football trips, and he's like, no, but you know, if you want to go, we'll sort it for you. And then when they qualified, it's like, yeah, you know, it'd be great. Let's do something for the Euros. But you know, it's still quite new then. It's like, I'm not sure I can do this. This is too big. So I signed up with a coach company in England who was used to doing coach trips, football trips into Europe. But as time went on, it got to a case of, you know, that I wasn't happy because they were doing things like selling stuff as 2-star hotels, which when they were telling us what the hotels were, they were like 1-star dives. And it's like, actually, I can see how they do it, how they're doing it, and all that. And it's like, I can do that, and I can do it to a better standard. So I broke ranks. You know, it cost me a bit of money to get out, but I broke ranks, used my own people, used an army of people who were willing to help. And that's where it really, really took off. And in terms of the comparable trips that we ran compared to established companies throughout the tournament, on the comparable ones, we outsold everyone.
Yeah, no, good.
And haven't really looked back from there, really.
Yeah, I bet that was a good trip.
Yeah, you know, interesting learning curves on the way, you know, especially if you're really doing large scale for the first time. There's bound to be a few little hiccups, but we got there. And you know, every trip, everything you do, even if you've been doing something for 10 years, you'll still learn new things. You know,
things don't always go to plan, but you just got to learn to manage that.
Exactly. And you know, if as long as you learn from it as well, you manage from it and you learn from it, you know, it's just another one to put on your list for next time. Remember this, if it doesn't, you know, if it goes wrong. So yeah, it's a challenge, but you know, we enjoy it. You get a trip out of it at the end of the day, and you get to see places you wouldn't necessarily go to visit.
Yeah, that's what's good about going away. You know, you get to see bits that you, like you say, you just wouldn't go. I know I've done that with my job sometimes. Like I went to Sweden. You know, it's probably not somewhere that was high on my list. Although I might end up there again now through interviews, connections, and networks. But I ended up in where did I go? Gothenburg, I think. And it was lovely. Yeah, you end up places in Europe that you wouldn't necessarily pick as a holiday destination, but they can surprise you. Some of these places, some of these countries.
They can, and I think you ask a lot of Wales fans, and Tbilisi most recently will probably be mentioned as one of the places that they love and you would go back to, and yeah, one of those places you wouldn't ordinarily go to.
Yeah, definitely. All right, then. Well, I'm conscious that you're busy and you've probably got lots of things to do, so I won't take you all day. I won't take up your time all day, but thanks very much for coming on my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
No problem at all, and have a great rest of the day now. Enjoy your time off soon.
Thank you. It'll come at some point.
Yeah. All right, then. There's nothing else left for me to say now other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening.